All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ultimate Punching, the Ultimate MMA channel. Today, I've got a very special guest with me, Miranda Maverick, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of different stuff. Specifically, I want to know about your life as a fighter, how you got into the UFC, how you got into everything. So here we go. And if anyone watching, you wouldn't mind, hit the like and subscribe button. Helps with the algorithm, helps grow the channel, and I really appreciate it. So first and foremost, background. I wanted to know, how did you become a fighter? Was this something you've kind of grown up doing, or did you just kind of stumble into it?
I guess a mix of both. So when I was really young, my dad was big into self-defense, big about having us kids learn a form of martial art, but it was just at home in the living room, like on the floor, like an hour a day. We'd watch the UFC or we'd watch YouTube videos of jiu-jitsu, and we'd be learning jiu-jitsu in the middle of the living room on the carpet, or lay down a blanket and do it. And we'd learn the actual moves. Like we'd pause the fights and be like, oh, look, they're guillotining him. Let's learn how. And like go through to exactly what they did. And you'd be surprised how much you can learn by doing that. Like learn the actual basics from rear naked choke, guillotines, basic takedowns, all kinds of different stuff like that. And when I turned 16, I was like, I want to try this jiu-jitsu thing out as a sport, like try it myself and go get better at it to where I feel competent. And so I went to a gym when I turned 16, and that I didn't want punched in the face at all. Like we had talked about before, my dad was like, you could be a fighter, you could be one of the best. And I was like, no way, I don't want to be punched in the face. And then fast forward a year and a half or two later, and in Missouri, the state of Missouri, you have to be 18 to fight MMA. And I decided I'd give it a shot, and if I loved it and I did well, then I'd go be the best I could be. And if I hated it or I did bad, I would never fight again. It would be a bucket list item. And I went in, ended up winning in the first round via submission, and the rest is kind of history.
Walk me through how that first jiu-jitsu class went. Like, so you were learning it in your living room. You went into to do jiu-jitsu at 16. How did that first class go? Did it transfer well, or was it sort of the wake-up call most people go through when they first sign up for jiu-jitsu?
So amusingly, I didn't have a wake-up call until 3 months after I started, and that's because I went to what most people in the jiu-jitsu community call a McDojo when I first started. It did have jiu-jitsu classes, but later on, I didn't know about belt rankings and stuff very well. I found out that he was a blue belt that was teaching the classes, right? And it was just a gym that mostly had like Krav Maga and Kimpo and stuff, and I was like, this is not really what I was looking for. But the reason I went there was because they had a juvenile class, and I was very uncomfortable going with grown men at the time with that close contact. And so they had a juvenile class between the ages of like 13 and 17 years old of kids, mainly guys, right? Mainly boys. And I was like, perfect. I'm 16. I'll fit right in there in the middle. And they had about 4 kids my age. And I was beating those boys up within like 2 days. No joke. And I was like, this is silly. Like, I want to start competing if I'm this good, And I talked to them about competing, and the gym was not very good with that. They were like, we don't believe in competing. We only do this for self-defense. We don't want to hurt people. And I was like, what? Like, it's just competition. It's not trying to kill somebody. And so I quit the gym there like 2 months later after I decided I kind of learned everything from them, and they finally told me I wouldn't be able to compete. I was like, I'm going to go to a real gym. And I ended up going into Springfield Fight Club for the first day, and I was almost 17 when that happened. And that's in Springfield, Missouri, where I ended up staying until I turned pro, actually. And I went there. Everybody's in these things called gis. I didn't know anything about them because even the old gym I had went to just had shorts and, sports top that you wanted. And when I got there, they were like, no, you need to have a gi on here. You can wear this rental. And I got wiped the floor with by every single person in there. There were all a bunch of white belts. I was the only female in the class. And I was like, whoa, these people know what they're doing. Right. So ended up sticking around there. Absolutely loved that I had just gotten beat up because it showed me that I had so much more to learn. And like I said, I stayed with them until I turned pro and had to move for grad school.
That's an amazing story. There's a little part of me that kind of thing. So like I do a little bit of jiu-jitsu. It's fun. But I have a similar story where I was lifting a lot of weights and different things like that at the time. I go into a jiu-jitsu school, and this guy who might have been 125 pounds soaking wet, I walk around at about 200. He tied me up into a pretzel multiple times in a 6-minute round. And so I'm just like, man, there's something to this, right? But one of the things like our instructors started doing was sort of like easing people in a little bit more Whereas like you go through sort of the introductory class and then you start rolling, and a lot of people stick around a lot more, but I kind of like that sort of baptism by fire too. So I don't know. Both of them seem like great options. Just depends on who's going in.
My gym here in Denver, it's a big enough gym that they have enough people to separate whole classes. So they have like an intro class, which is for anyone up to 2 stripes on their white belt. They have an intermediate class, and then they have like an advanced class, which is you're able to come into once you have 2 stripes, but they're like, don't come in here unless you know what the heck you're doing, because they'll just kick you out and tell you to go back to intermediate class. So that's been really great. I think a lot more people do stick around. They get a lot more comfortable doing it. And I know some people get almost bored doing the intro classes, but it's like, you've got to know at least the basics. You've got to be comfortable with the 30 seconds of rolling before you can be pushed into a 6-minute round and just die and go, man, I don't want to do this anymore.
That's it's amazing. It really is. So that first fight, what was it about that made you want to like become an MMA fighter? Like you won, a lot of people don't want to make that walk. Like take me through kind of how you felt, leading up to it, during, and then what kind of clicked with you to make you want to do this maybe professionally for your life?
Yeah, I mean, I was nervous. The very first fight I had, I was so nervous. I was like, I have no idea how this is going to go. The girl that I fought had already fought before. She had been training for 5+ years. She was like 28, maybe 30. And I was like, wow, I'm fighting somebody a lot older than me, a lot more experienced than me. But I was like, that's why I went in. Like I said, I was either going to win and like it, like this idea of punching this girl in the face, or I was going to walk out and be like, man, I did not like that, even if I won. And I ended up being in there and being like, wow, it wasn't that bad in the moment. It's like we're both fighting each other. I wasn't worried about like, ooh, sorry, I hit you, because that's what I did a lot in training. When there were other girls that came in, because I was the first girl to start there, other girls would slowly come in and start training with me, but I'd have to go really light with them. And if I hurt them, it was like, oh, sorry. I was afraid my fight was going to go the same way, but went in there, ended up taking her down and submitting her in the first round. So it was a pretty quick fight. And I was like, well, that was pretty easy. Like I like that. I can just take people down, submit them, not walk out with broken bones and stuff. Like maybe this is what I want to try to do. And second amateur fight went the same way. Third amateur fight went the same way, and had a great amateur career, and decided, you know what, I'm going for this for real.
That's a pretty amazing story. The kind of a follow-up to that is, how is it training, starting out versus now? Do you sort of train with a lot of women when you train, or is it still mostly men, or is it a good mixture? Like how has it kind of grown?
Well, it's definitely grown to be more females, but when I started out, and I say started out, I mean even 3 years ago, I only trained with men. I'd say 90% of my training partners were men at least. I had a couple training partners in Virginia where I lived that were females, but they didn't do MMA. It was like just for the Muay Thai side of it. Now I moved to Denver, Colorado, because there's such a high population of female fighters here. It's awesome because I can go spar and have sometimes even more girls in the training room than guys when it comes to sparring. Now, my average training partners for actual striking and technique, they're a lot of times the men. But I try to have all my private lessons where it's just one-on-one trainings with my coaches, being with other females. And I try to have most of my sparring with females too. So that's great. I mean, I just got done getting 2 black eyes from sparring with Rose yesterday. So she's obviously an awesome training partner to have leading up to her and Macy's fight the weekend before mine. So that's great. And there's a lot of other talented girls in the area. Raquel Pennington, Tisha Torres are training partners of mine. I get a lot of good work from the females out here.
Who's coaching up there? Is that Trevor Whitman?
Trevor Whitman has his own small group of fighters, and he doesn't like go to a gym or anything. It's like out of his own gym that he has, we always used to call it a garage gym, but now he has a really nice like on it gym, and it's like invite only. I do not train under Trevor Whitman. I have my own 2 coaches, which aren't really coaches of Team Elevation or anything like that. I'm not really part of a quote unquote like team group that people would know. I train under Elliot Marshall as my head coach. Myself and Drew Dober are the only 2 fighters coached under him currently. And then I also have Justin Houghton, who runs Pound for Pound Muay Thai, which is a big group that is kind of a feeder gym to Elevation Fight Team, and it teaches a lot of those guys.
Inside camp, outside of camp, what does your day typically consist of in terms of training? And what do you do outside of training, like for fun and to sort of unwind, different things like that?
Yeah, I never really have much training time to unwind or have fun in life, so to speak. Right now is kind of my hustle period of life, I like to say. But like today, I think Wednesdays are my worst day as far as training, where I'm just fatigued. Like even right now, I'm so exhausted that it's hard to even talk, if that makes sense. I had training from like 7:30 to 8:30 this morning for strength and conditioning. I was supposed to have MMA grappling. Not enough people showed up, so I ended up doing 11 to 12:30 was a pro striking class. Then I did 1 to 2 a little after for wrestling. And yesterday we sparred hard and I did 3 hours of jujitsu. So I'm just like shot today. And the rest of the day I have a couple interviews. Then I'm going to get some recovery done at the chiropractor. After that, I have my Hershey job I have to catch back up on. I worked on it a little bit between trainings, but I work full time for Hershey. So I have a very flexible schedule, but I still have to get my
Oh, wow.
stuff done. So I'll be working on that until late tonight. And then any other free time that I have a pickle business, if you didn't know that. And so I work on pickling. I do it all myself from scratch. So that's what I do in my quote unquote free time. And any other spare time I get, I try to draw, which I also do commissioned art and stuff. But I don't get to do that very often. I'm usually too busy.
I do know about the pickle business. That kind of intrigued me. I ordered your pickles. I'm waiting for them to arrive, but I'm excited to try them because I'm one of those people that will open a jar of pickles and finish the jar of pickles because I love pickles. And like it's called Prowler Pickles, people. I'm including a link below. Prowler Pickles. So I'm going to try every single one of them, and I'll tell you guys which one I think is the best because I am a pickle connoisseur. Yeah.
That's awesome. You're up in Canada, right?
Anyway, yeah, up in Canada.
Yep. I already sent the pickles out 2 days ago, so we should be good to go on that.
Awesome. I'm yeah, very, very excited to try them because all those different flavors looked incredible. So anyway, that's really interesting. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, in terms of your career as a fighter, has there been a favorite place that you fought?
Let's see. Different places for different reasons. I think, Abu Dhabi was really exciting. It was my first time ever being out of the country, so that was intriguing. It was during COVID though, so like you didn't hardly meet anyone. It was very odd because everything was like stationed off. You couldn't leave a certain perimeter. COVID testing every day. You were stuck in your room, isolated for 3 days. Couldn't even get out to train. So that was kind of crazy, but I have a lot of fond memories there because I got to go to the beach, got to see like just a beautiful place, and also had like a great experience with my husband out there. Like we were just engaged at the time, and so that was a great time of like, wow, we're by ourselves having basically a vacation other than the fact that I'm miserable and cutting weight, right? And then Salt Lake City, Utah, I fought there, but one of the times that I had a canceled fight ended up being a great time because my entire family was out and we went and saw the Capitol and we went to the Salt Lake that's out there, or not the Salt Lake, but the salt fields that are out there, checked out the Moab Desert out there. So just had a good time out there as well.
That's amazing. And one thing I always ask is, if at any time in any location, who would it be and where?
Man, I really want to fight Macy Barber again. She's just now getting ready to fight Rose, and I know she's actually back in the Denver, Colorado area, so she's training locally where I'm at, and I have heard that she said she would be happy to train with me or whatever, which is like cool, but also I want to fight you at some point. We already fought once, and I think it was a robbery. I would like to fight her again. And that's kind of where I stand on that. But honestly, if it came down to like my actual dream fight, it'd be against whoever's the current champ at that time, right? Whenever I would be able to get a dream fight, I'd be like, whoever's the champ right now, I want to fight him.
That's amazing. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, like, you've had a couple losses in your career, and all fighters sort of handle it a little bit differently. What advice would you have to any fighters out there, if any? Like, how do you handle a loss? How do you kind of go through it? How do you get back on the horse, as they say?
Yeah, losing, especially in fighting, it's not like winning or losing a game. Like, you get hurt in the process. Most of your money leaves you when you lose a fight, etc. Like, it's a terrible feeling. You feel like a failure. At least I do. I feel like I failed at everything in life every single time that I lose a fight, because it's like every drop of sweat, every single minute of training leading up to it, I feel like it was a waste. Now, that's not true, and I get over that feeling the next few days, but in the moment it's very hard. So don't don't feel like you're the only one going through that if you are a fighter and feel that way. But a few days later, I just think about it and I'm like, listen, did I do everything I could to be the best that I could be in that cage? And it's like, usually the answer is yes. And it's like, okay, some days we just don't perform at our best, right? We have shit days in life, and it really sucks when it's the day that you're in the cage. And on top of that, sometimes the other person's just a better fighter, and you have to get over that and go and improve. And for me, like when I fought Erin Blanchfield, I think that I truly underestimated her when I walked in there. Like, I didn't think her grappling, especially her chain wrestling, would be that good. And once she got me on the ground, I just could not get up from bottom. And I was like, wow, this is a glaring hole in my game. Like, I don't ever play on bottom because nobody ever takes me down in fights. So I've never had to. And after that, I was like, all right, like, I really need to work on this. And my coaches helped a lot. But for 2 years straight, we just worked on getting up from bottom all the time. Like every jiu-jitsu round, every MMA grappling round, we'd start with me held against the wall and on the ground as well. And just work and work and work and learn new things. And I think it has shown a lot, not only in my fights since, but also just in general during training. I'm like, wow, I've done a lot better and I've improved. So as a fighter, when you lose, like, go back to the drawing board and learn and learn and learn and make yourself be better. Don't like be in denial of, well, it just wasn't my day. It's like, sure, maybe it wasn't, but there's always things you can improve from. But one of my least favorite sayings is the whole, you either win or you learn. I'm like, I'd rather win and learn. Like, losing sucks. It doesn't matter. You can learn and win at the same time. So just know that losses happen to everybody, and you're going to learn either way, whether you win or lose. But get out there and just try your best and know that you did everything you could during fight camp to perform at your best.
I think that's incredible advice. I wanted to sort of switch over to someone who's been making headlines a lot lately, is Ronda Rousey. And I wanted to kind of get your reaction. Basically, the gist of what she has said in kind of the last few weeks is that she's sort of blaming the fans. She's saying that the people won't embrace her. There's kind of been this series of different quotes that she said where she's blaming a bunch of different things. You can find this on MMA Junkie and different places like that. And that, you know, she should be treated poorly if she ever kind of came back as a into the audience or anything like that. What's your sort of take on that? Her career, you know, different things like that.
I have a few different aspects of that. One, she throws pity parties a lot throughout her career. I don't think it's a good look for her. However, I will say as a fighter, like, fans can sometimes suck. And it's hard to focus on the good, even if there's only 10% of bad, because the bad are usually so bad, if that makes sense. And I know a lot of hate and a lot of shade gets thrown on Ronda for her losing. And they're like, she was never good. And it's like, she was the best of her time. Yes, the sport evolved and she didn't evolve as quickly, or she had herself a bad training like regimen, bad coaches around her, whatever it was. She didn't improve or evolve at the rate that she needed to, right? But she was still a pioneer for women's MMA. Just about any female that has started MMA is like, man, Ronda Rousey was awesome. You know, it's like we all watched Ronda Rousey and saw her as this inspiration, whether you liked her as a person or not. Because I'm one of those people that, as a person, I'm like, I don't know if I like Ronda Rousey. I have some mixed feelings where I'm like, I don't think I like her too much. But as a fighter, as an athlete, I'm like, man, I respect her. I definitely respect her. I was inspired by her to some level, even though it's not like, ooh, I became a fighter because of her. Even arm bars and stuff, I was like, man, if she can do it to women, I'm pretty sure I can do it to women. And I threw a lot of arm bars when I was first starting into the fights because I saw her do it. So there's the aspect of shitty fans, though. I hear other fighters, all kinds of people, fans, fighters, etc., that are like, yeah, but she just loses once and quits. She sucks. And it's like, she also got offered by the WWE a multi-million-dollar deal. Who wouldn't do that? It's like, yeah, throw away your pride if it means you just secured your entire family's future. At the end of the day, this isn't necessarily just a glory ride. Like, if I had a way to secure my entire future without ever getting punched in the face, you better dang well believe I'd take it. So the crap being thrown at Ronda Rousey in the past is true from her perspective that has happened. But I think there's also a lot of great fans out there, and like a lot of young girls that still dress up as her on Halloween and stuff like that, that she could look at and see for inspiration. But it's hard not to focus on the bad, and I know that from personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah, like the way I see it as a fan, and I get it. Like the MMA fans can be pretty cruel from what I've seen, but it's just one of these things that the way I see it is like there were 2 losses in a row: Holly Holm, Amanda Nunes, and people love a comeback story, right? People love it when when you look at the situation and be like, okay, I thought I was the best, but I clearly have this issue and this issue to work on, right? Go back to the drawing board, go back into the gym, fix the gap in that game, and then come back and put up the fight of your life. And even if you lose, the fans will be like, that was awesome. I like, not all fans, right? But just for me, I would look at that and be like, huge amount of respect. But the way I saw it, there were holes in the game. People were critical of those holes in the game. Those holes in the game got exposed. And then, instead of dealing with that, she kind of left. And I mean, what might have been, it could have been a huge money deal and take the money and run, as far as I'm concerned, right? But that was just that's my perspective.
Yeah, I think
on the situation,
I think from
right?
looking,
Everybody loves a comeback story.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's important to see athletes as people too. And like if you put yourself in the same position and you were offered a WWE deal of 10 times more money than you'll ever make in your entire career in UFC, and it's either that or go back to a place where you have like already 2 losses and have to work your way back up. And it's not like she had a small thing she needed to fix. She had a whole, like, she needed to learn striking basically. And it's like, that's not a 6-month fix.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people don't understand that's going to take her years to climb back up and be able to keep up with that level. So say 3 years down the road, 3 years down the road, she had already made millions in WWE, gained a whole new fan base there. So I just think it's a one-sided look at that, to where I see it as her as a person. I'm like, heck yeah, you go succeed, you do your thing. She still, no matter what way you want to argue it, was the pioneer of women's MMA. Like the core person, even if she wasn't the first fighter, she was the one that got it into the UFC. She's the one that made that mark. And there's a lot of people she fought back in the day, still fighting, still at the top of their game, which is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. And I don't blame anybody for going the money route. I was just speaking about myself personally as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing is, so let's shift over. UFC 302 is coming up. Professional fighter is talking to me today. Who do you think is going to come out on top in the match versus Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa? I feel like they've been a little bit quiet this week compared to normal.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there were a couple of things that got let go by Paulo Costa in the last day that were kind of like harsh, ridiculous, where people are like, oh, he said this terrible thing. And it's like, yeah, Sean Strickland has said 5,000 terrible things. They're both just trying to keep up with the shit talk game, even if it's inappropriate or whatever else. I'm not sure, because I don't keep up with that division as much as I probably should. But I'm probably just going to go with Sean. I think he's more well-rounded and has such an odd game to train for. And he surprises everybody almost every single time he wins, I feel like. But I think he might get it done, even though I would probably root on the Paulo Costa side.
Okay, fair. And Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. What are your picks there?
Man, I'm going with Islam, even though I want Dustin to win. I just think the wrestling's gonna overwhelm him.
Yeah, I'm an Islam fan. I would love it, and I think he would get the win. But I also love a great story, right? And Dustin Poirier coming and like knocking Islam Makhachev and kind of riding off into the sunset after that. Like it doesn't get any better than that storybook. You know what I mean?
That's true. I hope it happens.
Yeah, it would be great to see. I wouldn't even be upset that one of my favorite fighters loses. Your business, you do some work for Hershey, different things like that. First of all, how did you get into pickling?
I grew up on a ranch. I grew up out in the country, and we learned to vacuum our own food, learned to butcher animals, learned canning. We made everything from our own salsa. We had our own honeybees, so we made honey, but salsa, honey, canned corn, pickles, all kinds of things that we would make. And so as we got older, we stopped having a garden at home because it was just my dad and mom. And basically it was like, us kids need to take on some of those responsibilities. So for Christmas, or around Christmas time, it was beginning of December, I was like, I'm going to make some pickles and make some canned stuff and take it home and just surprise everybody. It'll be a gift. And I took like a story and I was like doing some homesteading. And I had a few people that were like, whoa, cool, you make pickles. I would like a can. And I had some people that were asking, or a jar. And I was like, it takes so much time and work, though. Like, I don't know if it'd be worth it. And I thought about it and did some of the finances. And I was like, I've talked about wanting to make my own business. This would be something that's not huge outgo. Like I could make it pretty easily to start out, only have a few thousand into it. I wouldn't have to get in debt to make a business happen. Let me give this a shot. And so I posted on my story the next day and I was like, if I were to start a pickle business, who would buy pickles from me? I got tons of positive feedback and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And it's eaten up all my free time. And some people are like, wow, you need to stay more focused. And I'm like, listen, if you only focus on one thing in your life, you're never going to get anything. And one of these days, I'm either going to get hurt or old and I need some kind of backdrop when I get done fighting. And I think that's kind of where it rooted from, is I don't want to be one of those fighters that gets done fighting and ends up being a waitress at, a local place. Like I want to have a future to where I'm not working a 9 to 5 all over again once I get done fighting. And we don't make money like NFL players. We can't just ride off into the sunset without being one of the very top dogs of the sport.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So once again, the business is called Prowler Pickles. You were saying that I think I saw on your social media that you do some farmers markets as like a way to market your pickle business. Which ones do you like? Which one are you going to be at next?
Yeah, so the one that I'm booked for this year, because they take a long time here in Denver, there's so many businesses that book, but I'm going to the Littleton Q one, and it'll be almost every other weekend throughout the summer. So you guys check it out. Until my fight, I'll be out there almost every other weekend. I'll be posting on my Prowler Pickles story on Instagram every week. That I'm going to be out there. So keep a lookout, come grab some pickles. And if you don't see me in person, you can always order online. I ship anywhere in the world. You guys can look it up, prowlerpickles.com, and you can message me if you're in a different country other than like Canada or Mexico. I've shipped to the UK, I've shipped to Australia, shipped to Israel. So check it out.
And then the last thing, and this is just my idea. How many pickles would you have to sell to try to petition Bruce Buffer to call you the Pickle Queen as a nickname when you're in the octagon?
Man, I might try to do that this next fight. I don't know if it's a limit on how many pickles I sell, but maybe that would help me sell pickles anyway.
I don't know. I was just thinking about it. Like I ordered them. I'm like, you know what? That would be pretty cool to have Bruce Buffer say Pickle Queen Maverick or something like that right before you start fighting.
That would be pretty awesome. I might have to talk to him and see if we can make that happen.
When you hang up gloves, when you're done being a fighter, what do you want people to remember your career and look back and say, hey, like this was Miranda Maverick?
Yeah, I want to be seen as the clean fighter, like I don't talk shit too much. I try to just go in there, I fight, and I fight for my family. I try to tell everybody, like I try to represent my faith every time I'm up there. I see me being in this platform, having this platform as a way to spread goodness in the world. Like I'm a big Christian. I believe in God. I think I've been given blessings throughout my life for a reason. And I try to represent good causes every time I step in the cage, even if it's little things, like last time I ran an auction for human trafficking with all my fight gear. And I try to continue to support those good causes and give proceeds from some of my stuff to those good causes and, inspire young people, whether it's women, men, children. Like you can go and do anything and don't listen to the stereotypes. I don't fit many of the stereotypes of a female MMA fighter that people used to be like, wait, you do what? You're too nice. And it's like, that doesn't have anything to do with it. And a lot of us don't fit the stereotypes that are somehow prescribed to us, but people get these ideas. And I want to show that you don't have to fit into the molds. You can go out there and do several things at once. I was always told I was too young. I was told to slow down. I was told you don't need to be doing school and this at the same time. It's nonsense. You're not focusing enough on fighting. And I've shown that I can have a career while still working full time and training full time and going to school full time and managed my way to the UFC while I was still doing all three of those things.
That's amazing. I want to thank you so much for your time today. That's the end of the interview. And I just really appreciate your time. And I wish you all the best in your upcoming fights and with your pickle business. I'm going to put the links below because I'm excited to try them. But when I try those pickles, I guarantee you I'm going to be spreading the word all over the place.
Well, thank you. I'd love it if you did a video review for them, but I really appreciate it. Thank you and have a great day.